Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Theo, and I love to talk about horror movies. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about Send Help. So this is the latest from Sam Raimi, and this one's actually pretty solid. I genuinely enjoyed watching this film, and I enjoyed everything that had to do with it, aside from the CGI. This is a movie that takes place with two people, basically Rachel McAdams and Dylan O'Brien. One plays a nerdy secretary. Rachel McAdams plays a nerdy secretary figure accountant who's super awkward, who's in line for this promotion until the CEO of a company dies, and then his dickhead son Brad takes over and pretty much promises that promotion to one of his best friends, stealing everything that Linda had worked for her whole career up to that point. Now, this type of scenario is stuff that people go through on the daily in like multi-million-dollar corporations, where it's not about how hard you work, but it's about the opinion of somebody else or how good a friend you are with somebody else. And I've even run into the point like that for my career path in life before. And boy, I can tell you, I am on Linda's side throughout this whole entire movie. One thing I would like to point out here that I pointed out in my couple shorts in this, but the CEO of this company, who is not actually a figure in this film, he's not actually filmed in this movie, but he is in pictures, so he's like a standby cast member, and it's Bruce Campbell, continuing his long reign of collaborations with Sam Raimi. And then his dickhead son, his name is Brad, is played by Dylan O'Brien, and this is the kid from Maze Runner, and I think he does solid in this film. I wouldn't say he's my favorite in this film, but he does the role. You know, he plays a dickhead boss who is trying to get everything that he needs and wants out of Linda, who's trying to fire her for absolutely no reason. He's mischievous, and he's just very nonchalant about being an asshole, and that's just, he plays that role very, very well. But Rachel McAdams is very standout in this movie. She really, really does a good job at playing this kind of sidelined, awkward, nerdy character who transforms into this survivor warrior who kind of goes a little batshit crazy along the way too. But man, she morphs into this character in every way possible and keeps you wondering what's going on the edge of your seat and makes you want to keep watching. And I loved her in this film. I've always thought she was a fantastic actress, and I think that this one is one of her standout roles for me. You know, I've known her since she was doing Mean Girls back in the day, but like, I've seen a lot of her stuff. She was in The Notebook too, I believe. Really good drama piece role and like pop artisty type of things. And in this role, we get to see her in more of a thriller, suspense, batshit crazy, psychopath tendencies kind of character. And she does really, really well in that. And it's all about the limit. You know, it always comes down to the limit that a person can take. And I think that Linda Little's character in this, who is Rachel McAdams, shows that she is at her limit and that she's not going to take any more bullshit from any type of man figure in her life. So back on track, after we get through the point of finding out that Brad's taking over the company, they have to go on this business trip together, and he basically tells Linda, I need you to prove to me that you want to be the vice president of this company. If you can prove to me by putting together this big presentation to this partner that we can close on, then I will consider you to be the vice president instead of my friend. This is all a lie. He's basically using her to get the presentation so they can get the partner, and then he's going to fire her after the fact. They get on a plane, they take off, and then halfway through they start basically making fun of Linda because she is auditioned for Survivor, and she has a video out there that she's made on the internet to try and transition into that role and be on Survivor. She's a big fan, and they just start making fun of her, and they start cracking jokes about her, and then all of a sudden the plane starts to crash. And man, there's a gnarly kill in this plane that I thought was fucking awesome. There's a scene where basically the plane rips open, and the guy who's up for stealing Linda's job grabs a hold of her leg and says, give me your seat. I need your seat. I'm more important than you. Give me your seat. And basically starts trying to pull her out of the seat. and she takes a fork and stabs him in the hand, and he flies out, but his tie gets stuck, all right, and his whole body just slamming against the plane over and over again, and his head keeps smashing against the window that Linda's at, and she just slowly closes it like, nah, I'm okay. So I thought that was fantastic. But yes, that's where the premise for this movie takes place, is where the story starts. They crash land into the ocean, and then we kind of get stranded on this deserted island where Brad and Linda are the only two survivors, and they then have to start fighting their way out and trying to survive and try to figure out how to get off the island. And because Linda is a fan of Survivor, she knows many tactics. She's watched them all. She knows many tactics about survival, and she's very analytic and very logistical, and she starts to strategize a plan of how to keep them alive. But Brad, on the other hand, is still trying to play that dickhead boss, where you're just going to do what I say, I'm your boss, and you're going to listen to me because I said so. And she says, no, we're not in the office anymore, Bradley. That's not going to happen. I am the boss out here. You're going to listen to me. And if you don't like that, then I'm not going to help you. And then, you know, rich baby bitch Brad starts to dehydrate. He starts to get hungry and starts crawling his way back to Linda a few times over. And she continues to give him opportunities over and over again of trying to prove himself, just like he did for her, of trying to prove herself. The dialogue for the film, really the back and forth between these two, is good. It's very good. It keeps you interested. It keeps you flowing. It keeps the movie energized. It keeps you wondering what's going to happen and if they're actually going to make it off this island, or if it's just like one of those left field Sam Raimi movies that's going to have like zombies or something on it at some point. You know, there's a lot of interaction on this characterization between these people. And it's the whole movie. That's the whole foundation of this film. And these two really, really do a good job at it. Now, after they pretty much come to terms with each other about what's going to be going on, Linda starts to go out and hunt. And she has to hunt this boar, and, you know, Brad doesn't think she can do it. And Brad also has a fractured leg. It's not completely broken, but it's tore up really bad, fractured, big old cut on it. And he can't move around very well. So he has to rely on Linda to survive, and he knows that. And she proves that to him too. So she goes out to hunt, and he says, you can't do that. That thing's going to kill you. And she brings it back, and, you know, she throws the head down. And there's a lot of comical moments in this film too that keep it lively, keep it lighthearted, along with keeping the suspense and the thriller up on the side of the island and keeping them wondering if they're going to get off. But I wouldn't necessarily say it's a horror film, but she throws the boar scene down, the head down. The boar scene is probably the most horrific part about all this. This is where we start getting like these traditional Sam Raimi shots where the boar is going into the POV shot from The Evil Dead, and it's running around and it's fast paced and a couple jump scary moments throughout. But I wouldn't necessarily say that it's a horror film as much as I would say it's like a survival thriller at best. So yeah, she throws the boar head down, splats blood all over Brad's face, and says, you ever hunt before? I think I like it. It was such a great scene, and I think it's one that stands out for me, that stood out very much. And you know, throughout after that, while she's out hunting, she notices there's this boat coming in right offshore, and she doesn't want Brad to know about it because she wants to be there with him. She doesn't want to leave yet. She's in control. She wants to have a foundation kind of relationship kind of thing. I don't know if that's exactly what we want to call it, but I think that's what she tries to turn this into. But basically, she tries to start this relationship with Brad, whether it be a friendship or a whole entire like full-out relationship or something. But she sees this boat coming in and basically freaks out and tries to keep Brad off of that side of the island, right? Because obviously there's an access point where people are coming in, and she knows that now. And basically she goes back to the campsite, and a couple of days later she says, let's go for a walk, and she takes him up there to get his legs some R&R, right, to get some exercise and get it moving. And goes up to where that boat was coming in at, but at an angle to where you can't see anything. Okay, and there's this big X formation on a rock up in the mountains. And she says, don't ever go near that. It's all poisonous twigs and vines and ivy. You know, you'll be scratching for days until you die if you go over there. You never want to go over there. You'll just die if you go over there, basically. So at that point, I kind of predicted what was going to be happening in this film from that point on. But it didn't take away from it for me. I still wanted to watch it. I was still very interested in it. I was still very on board with it. But from that point until the end of this film, I pretty much guessed verbatim what was going to be going on. Now they come back down from the mountain and establish more of like a relationship thing over some bonding, and they start to talk, and they start to open up to each other more over a campfire and some wine that Linda had been making, basically prison wine. She'd been crushing up berries and stuff and putting it in a sack somewhere, and basically tells Brad, you want to get drunk. And they all open up to each other, and then they're starting to talk about things, that livelihoods, and trying to get closer with each other. And this is all just a big patsy scheme for Brad. He just wants Linda to be on his side. That way he can use her until he can't. And basically get himself off the island or survive until somebody shows up. And he offers to make them dinner the night after. He makes them dinner, and during the trip up to the mountainside, Linda told him, you don't want to eat these berries because if you do, they'll give you a rash or they can poison you. You definitely don't want to eat those kind of berries. So Brad offers to make dinner, and he slips some of those into the food, and she eats, and she falls over, and she convulses, starts having some puking and some other stuff. And he grabs his raft that he's been working on the sidelines and tries to fuck you, Linda. And he takes off, and he starts to jump into the ocean, and like 10 seconds in, the whole raft just poof, it just explodes, right, and washes him right back up on shore again. And then he starts to basically apologizing. I'm so sorry. I wasn't trying to kill you. She's doing this whole fake bullshit to her again, and she's not having it. So she basically takes off his pants and says, here, eat the, well, before all that, she gives him an octopus, says, here, eat this, you're weak, you need to eat that crash, blah, blah, blah. She poisons him back, and basically he can't move. He's at a paraplegic standpoint where nothing on his body moves because he ate an octopus that's poisonous. And she takes off his pants and basically says, you're going to listen to me. And she has a knife, right? She found a knife that washed up on shore, and she says, you're going to listen to me, because this isn't going to happen again. And back in the day, the tribal leaders would do X, Y, and Z to their enemies to make sure that they knew that they were meaning business. And she starts to mess with him, and she's heating the knife, and she goes to poke him with it, and then she hits this, whatever this is, and blood spurts everywhere, and he's wigging out, he's crying, he's, and he thinks that he's getting his members cut off, right? But he can't feel any of it. So afterwards, she picks up this rat. She says, no. It's just a rat. Next time, it will not be. So yes, I don't want to give too much away from the movie, but there are a lot of comedic points. There are a lot of suspense points. This movie is really good. You should go and check it out. I definitely don't want to ruin it for you. This is a semi-spoiler review, and I don't want to ruin the ending for you because it is pretty much like you can predict it if you're paying attention to the film and you're in on it. But if you're not, I mean, you're going to be surprised by it at the end. But from that point on, it's basically just another half hour of them going back and forth and trying to figure out a way to get off the island. And the ending itself is based off of Linda and what happens. So I don't want to give it all away because there is a small twist that kind of points to a different direction of what they probably could have went. But outside of that, it's pretty predictable. So I don't want to give it away, but yes, that's the review standpoint on that. I think this movie's fantastic. I think everything about it is just spot on. I think the acting was great. I think Rachel McAdams, this is probably one of my favorite performances from her. I think that everything that had to do with the scripting in this, the dialogue, the back and forth, the story concepts, the idea of it being stranded on a desert island with somebody you can't stand. I think a lot of it has a ton of potential that was just used correctly. Yeah, fantastic. Those are all the things that I liked about the film. I think that one of my favorite parts in this film had to do with just the standout moments from Rachel McAdams. I think that like her character and how she acts is what defines this film. And whenever she's doing that whole member thing where she's getting under his skin and trying to show like she's going to cut off his members, that one, that was a good scene because she's really into it. And then toward the end, she's a little bit more cuckoo, but that's okay. You know, she does it really well. So I think that altogether, this film has a lot of really good things going for it, and that's everything that I liked about this film. Now, what didn't I like about the film? I only have one drastic complaint. Well, actually, maybe two. Two drastic complaints about the film. It's Sam Raimi. This man is a horror legend in his own right, but chose to use CGI for the film. I don't know if there was like budget constrictions or if he just chose to do that for some reason. I know he's been doing that in some Disney films and stuff that he's been making with Marvel, and he did that in Doctor Strange, and I think he just kind of followed that route. I'm not a fan of it. Like I said, practical effects all the way, especially with Sam Raimi. He's one of the people who founded that kind of stuff. So I think that there should have been more use of practical effects. The boar was CGI. There's a scene where there's like a zombie character who is CGI, and there's a lot of like I'm sure the blood and stuff is practical, but at the same time, like nothing else that's supposed to be horror related is. So I just wish there was more practical effects versus CGI. Now, the only other thing I have is I wish we could have got a little bit more backstory from this movie, but then that would have drug the movie out too. So I kind of guess I get where they didn't do that, where they just kind of did the campfire scene and did some opening up. I just wish there was some more of that, where I could get to know the characters a little bit more and understand their backgrounds about why they're acting the way that they are. And yeah, that's the only two complaints I really have for this film. Everything else was really, really well done. I don't really have too many complaints for it. So yeah, Send Help. I'm going to give it 4.5 stars out of 5. I think this is a fantastic film. Everything about it is just genuinely good. I don't have too many complaints about it, and I think that you should definitely go and check it out. It's worth watching. I bought it. It's worth buying. You can watch it over and over again. Of course, you're going to know the ending and the outcome, but I think the acting and how these folks carry the film, I think is well worth buying this film. You should invest in it and watch it and have fun with it and have a good time with it. And I mean, it's just an all-around great film. But that'll do it for this one for me, everybody. I appreciate everything you guys do for the channel. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Go check out my gaming content over at Theodorkus XP. That's where I do a lot of my gaming stuff. I stream primarily, and I have some videos and stuff that I go out and some shorts. Same stuff I do on this channel, just basically doing more gaming stuff. So I appreciate everything you guys do. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Check under your beds. And stay safe out there, everybody.